Okay, all right. G'day. How are we? Listen, what we're going to do today is something a little bit different, something that I've not yet done before live. I'm going to go through and essentially talk to the news. We'll do a news segment here. I used to do a This Week in Crypto type show, and I think I want to bring it back. But I'm open to your suggestions, what you want to see, what you would like to know more about. And there will be something at the end as well that if I've got some time, I will give you a little added bonus there also. Let me know where you are and let me know that you can hear me. Please make sure you subscribe. You hit the bell button, I think it says, and that you have all your notifications turned on, because then you'll know when I go live and what I'm doing. Okay, so just quickly, can you hear me loud and clear? Excellent. Some people are saying yes. I'm just going to get stuck straight into this. Welcome. My name is Craig Cobb. I am the founder of TraderCobb.com, and I do trading education. I love the markets and I love crypto, and I've been here for the last 3 and a bit years. It's my favorite place in the world, and I'm going to bring you the news of the week. So let's do this. Boom, boom, boom. Bam. Rightio. First things first. Some of these news items you may have, well, most of them, I'm sure that you will already be all over. That's absolutely fine. What I want to do is I want to bring these together, bunch them, dissect them, and then bring them back together again at the end to give a bit of a theory, thought process, and what I'm seeing of this market, what I'm seeing is opportunity at the moment, because that's obviously what we're after. We want to know what's going on. I'll just get that little chat box back up. There it is. BLT, and I will do this for now. So, we are very well aware that Square, this was last week, this piece of news information was last week. Square went in and bought $50 million of Bitcoin. Now, of course, this was the second piece of positive information when it comes to big corporates and publicly listed companies buying into Bitcoin. Of course, the trailblazer there, it needs to be said, was... who was it? MicroStrategy. I forget the bloke's name, but MicroStrategy with their $250 million, followed by, I believe it was another $225 million, and they've probably made about 40 odd million since they got their shares, or since they got their Bitcoin, sorry. So seeing Square come into the space has also been it's been a confidence booster for a lot of investors and a lot of hodlers out there. Of course, it's whet the appetite of many other industry leaders, many other publicly listed companies. And I am reading more and more, and what we're about to see in a minute is more and more positive coming out about Bitcoin and crypto assets. Now, there are some big statements that have been made in this article as well. Where is it? Where did I find that? Jack Dempsey. We believe that Bitcoin has the potential to be more ubiquitous currency in the future, said Square's chief in a release. As it grows in adoption, we intend to learn. I like that from a CEO. I believe it was the CEO, yep. And participate in a disciplined way. For a company that is building products based on more inclusive future, the investment is a step on that journey. So it's a positive thing there. We also saw Square's founder and CEO, this is Square's founder and CEO, Jack Dorsey. He's talking about it being the world's single currency. Is that a good take up to a decade? Now, look, I'm all for these big plans and these big views and what. I think it's great, but for it to become a world single currency, that's a bloody big statement. And look, it really could be. It really could be. But for me, I mean, let's just take it one step at a time. It's great information. It's great news. And we've got a great market right now. We have seen some very bullish movement. Square sort of came in, helped out. We saw PayPal as well, which we'll touch on again in a minute. Goldman Sachs is starting to chirp from the rafters. There's a lot more in a positive sense. And look, we have never seen, here's one thing I want you to take on board. We have never, ever, ever witnessed what it's like to have big money FOMO. I'm talking about tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars flowing in from individuals, not just like individual entities, I should say, businesses, companies, treasury management. This is the money that can come in off the back of this sort of stuff. This is what Square is doing. They're getting some exposure to Bitcoin. This is what MicroStrategy has done. They have got their treasury managed by Bitcoin. Fidelity has come out in the last week saying, hey, listen, it's probably not a bad idea to have between 1 and 5% of your investments in digital assets. Obviously, a very broad term, but nevertheless, it's very positive for one of the world's largest financial institutions. G'day, Gary Addison. Gary a couple of times. Heidi, Luke, David. Hello to all of you. Right, so from positivity in Jack Dorsey and Square, let's now move on to our next item of news. Whoops, wrong button. And talk a little bit about Grayscale. Look, if you've not heard of Grayscale before, then you've probably been sleeping pretty well. Because it is a behemoth. It's probably, unless there's anyone else out there who's less public about this, it's the biggest publicly holding Bitcoin, so biggest public entity holding Bitcoin that is vocal about so. All right. Now, a couple of interesting things here when we go into what they've also done is that this is a fund. It invests on, as you see there, other people's desire, unprecedented demand. Now, what they've seen in the second quarter is second quarter. Yeah, it would have been last quarter. So we're in the third quarter. No, we're in the last quarter, the third quarter. Wow, the year's gone. What they saw in the last quarter is over $1 billion coming into their funds. That is showing immediate public demand. It's the way that people can get invested without having to take care of the custody, without having to do a lot of things that some people, your average Joe, or maybe your boomers that might not be so tech savvy, they might think, well, I want some exposure to this asset class, but I can barely Skype the grandkids. You know what I mean? So this fund allows them to find an easier on-ramp for them to get involved. Now, here's the really interesting thing. Offshore investors accounted for 57% of new investment capital into the product, which shows to me there's obviously a lack in other parts of the world to facilitate the needs of something like what we've got here in Grayscale, allowing more people to come and get involved. Or maybe it's because they've got a good reputation. One of the things that I want to point out as well is here are the inflows. Okay, so you want to talk about institutional money. Institutional money is typically driven from retail. Retail needs to come in. There needs to be the demand, as it was said at the top of this article, for the funds to go, yeah, well, we better do something here. Now, if you recall, if you're around in 2017, we had Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, a bunch of Barclays was even in there, HSBC. So they were all basically saying, Bitcoin bad, Bitcoin bad, Bitcoin bad. And if you've been listening to my podcast from the very, very early days, the Craig Cobb crypto podcast, you'll have heard me say, because I was talking to a lot of these items, especially JP Morgan with Diamond coming out and saying, anybody that is caught buying or owning or trading Bitcoin will be fired immediately. Well, there's a lot more conspiracy theory stuff that we can talk about on that, but that's for another time. One of the things that I always said is that, look, it's only because crypto is taking money out of their pocket. If somebody's not buying shares but they're investing, well, they're buying property, yeah? Well, buy a REIT, buy a unit trust, or buy something that we've got. Buy one of our products because we get a cut of that. We get the management fee. We want that money inflow, not outflow. If they don't list the product, i.e. access to crypto, well, any dollar that's getting invested into crypto is not a dollar that they're making money on. It was only a matter of time before they had their own investment vehicles and products for which people could flood in. And we're seeing it. It is growing. It is growing. It is growing. Of course, Goldman Sachs are also investing or buying Circle, which owns, I still think, Poloniex, an exchange that is sort of, I haven't used that for a long time. Haven't used that ever, actually. Okay, from here, we want to see their weighted portfolio. So if you're sitting there right now going, what should I be doing? How should I be investing? Well, you obviously haven't gone to tradercobb.com and got the latest download free course. It's right there for you. No, just in all honesty, that was that just sort of flopped out. No, organic. What I'm getting at is you want to start to look at how some of these portfolios are structured. Now, I know you might have a different risk appetite, as I know I do. I've got my own risk appetite. I've got my own rules. I've got everything there. She's all good. But have a look at what they've got here. Grayscale's investments total net asset under management is 6.3 billion. So they're a small fund. They are a very small fund, but it's digital assets. The Grayscale Bitcoin Trust had the most assets under management at 5.1 billion, followed by Ethereum. They own $867 million worth of Ethereum. And they own 92 million in a large cap fund, which I can only imagine or only consider that what they've got there is maybe a mix of a hybrid across the top 10 or something along those lines. It'll be something along these lines. So what does that tell us? Well, it tells us that it looks as though this is probably going to be somewhat of a stamp as to what other funds may be doing, may be looking to do, as Grayscale is here, and Grayscale has already done it. It is somewhat of a version of what could be achieved or what could be followed. So, very interesting that they are very happy to show how they're positioned, because essentially, I mean, they know who their market is, right? Because, you know, why wouldn't someone just go, oh, well, I'll just buy, cut it down, and I'll just follow their strategy? Well, you can do that, but it's not as easy as going and just getting them money raised, right? Another positive. And I'm not cherry picking this. I didn't pick this at all. Let's go now and have a look at our next step. We are talking about $1 million Bitcoin in 5 years. Cheers to that. And you know you can believe it, right? You know you can believe it because it's from a former vampire squid chief. Why the vampire squid? Well, that was a name coined back in the GFC. Yes, I was trading back then of Goldman Sachs. An octopus. A squid is a vicious attack dog. It's a cannibal. It will eat its own kind. It will literally eat everything in its path and leave nothing behind. They have a very short lifespan. If they're a calamari or a small squid, usually 1 year from nothing to as big as they can grow before something or someone eats them. It's a really derogatory term. It's basically saying you'd sell your mother for a pancake, right? So let's have a look at what we're seeing. Now, we know Raoul Pal, or however you say his name, he's a big Bitcoin bull. Okay, as you can see, he's, allocated 50% of his capital to Bitcoin. Good. He'd have a few beans too, I'd suggest. And he's also talking of an enormous wall of money. Now, that to me is what is of interest. What is this massive wall of money? And you can be damn sure that Raoul is in contact with people at the bank. He will be in contact with people, past, present investors, past and present employees and fund managers. Bitcoin is not going anywhere, not just because Raoul Pal says, but because it's entrenched. It is here. It's going to go well. He's saying $1 million in 5 years. I'll tell you what, if he's right, I will have a 92-foot Jarrett Bay. It'll probably take 2 years to get built, so I might not have it in 5 years. And you're invited, and we'll go catch some marlin. Because a $1 million Bitcoin means I can do anything I want. We can fly the chopper out to it. Beauty. Let's make it happen. So, let's talk about this wall of money. Okay, let's find this. Okay, here it is. Just from what I know, from all of the institutions, all the people that I speak to, there's an enormous wall of money coming into this. It's an enormous wall of money. Just the pipes aren't there to allow people to do it yet, and that's coming. But it's on everybody's radar screen, and there's a lot of smart people working on it. And this comes back to the Grayscale article. $6.4 billion is not a lot of money. I mean, obviously it is. But when you're talking about fund management, it is not. It is not enormous. It would be classified as boutique to say, to be very... it's definitely boutique. It's definitely boutique. You won't need to buy the rod, mate. We'll have a million other things if we get to $1 million. Don't worry. Rod's for everybody. So the Grayscale thing that I was getting at before, just to sort of intertwine these two things together, is that let's not forget Grayscale in its own right is an on-ramp. They then go and buy the Bitcoin, the Ethereum and whatnot, and then it's held by others. I mean, the fund, you own shares in the fund will have its own storage and whatnot, of course, safe from hackers, all that sort of stuff. And that's the way I suspect that they would do it. That is typically the way that it goes with any other fund. You invest into the fund, and then the fund takes care of investing your money. They take a snip, you take the rest, and happy days, away we go. Now, that allows people in. That brings a very small amount, 6.4 billion, in to our space. But what about when there's a lot of ways to get in? I mean, it's easy for us. We're here. We're in. I remember when I first got in, it was really tough. I was freaking out. I was worried. I was super concerned. I didn't know what I was doing. I am not a tech guy. No. I am totally tech illiterate. Just ask any of my stuff. All right? It's a joke how bad I am. I'm good at looking at charts. I'm good at finding my way and navigating around what I need to do what I do. Anything else, oh my goodness, you may as well be speaking Spanish. Actually, I probably understand Spanish better than I do computers. My point is this: it was harder. It was hard for me to get in, and I don't consider myself to be a dumb person. So if we get easier on ramps, it'll be people like my mum and dad who just do not want to listen to me about getting into Bitcoin, and that's fine. It'll be people like this that will have an easier way in. It'll be people like this, opportunities like this that will have financial planners with a product that is regulated, that is insurable. We bring those people in. We bring the product first. The financial planners come in underneath. Products sprout up everywhere. It's not hard to see why we can see a vision of a $1 million Bitcoin, why Jack Dorsey is saying that it might take a decade, but this will be the world's single currency. A lot of people are saying it. Just because you got a lot of money and just because you got a lot of clout and you can talk loud because you got a big audience, it doesn't make you right. Okay? But it's the confluence of all these different individuals coming together from very, very different walks of life and starting to speak the same language that I'm being impressed by at the moment. Bullish for Bitcoin? What do you bloody well think? Oof. Yeah, baby. Yeah, baby. Yeah, baby. So the pandemic's really... this sounds horrible. Look at me. I'm like the full news reader going... The pandemic has certainly not helped traditional markets. With inflation set to rise, most people are moving to Bitcoin. And it's a wise thing to do. Why? Well, we've gone out of the hope phase. I hope it's okay. I hope it's okay. I hope it's okay to... Yeah, righto. It's a bit crap, isn't it? Recovery, slow. Globally, recovery, slow. Equity, still high. Debt, real low. Oh my goodness. It's a recipe for disaster. And look, people that are working in these institutions, they're not sitting there going, oh, you're an idiot, you've got no idea. They're not. And that's why they're starting to plan for this sort of thing. And that's why we're seeing more institutions speak highly or regarding Bitcoin as something better than just a hope and prayer type investment structure. Okay, let's talk about some exchanges now. One of my favorite points are exchanges. We've seen the rise of Uniswap. That gave you lots of money for nothing, right? All those Uni tokens, I don't know where they're at now. I hadn't traded on Uniswap, so I didn't get anything. Woo! But yeah, the DEXs, which is the decentralized exchange, we're getting a lot of a lot more creeping into that space, and the volume has been snaffled for a little bit. But I don't think it matters too much for a trader like myself and like you guys. And the reason I don't think it matters too much is that I don't know if you've used Uniswap. I've gone in there and I tried to use it and I'm like, what the... it's not something that I recognize. It's very simple to use. It really is. It is very simple to use. But the volume that's coming from that, it's been rise to DeFi. So it was a place where you could just go and go thump, list, bam. You don't even need a centralized exchange, which back in 17, 18, were asking for astronomical fees just to list. I mean, what a mozza that was. You go on... You might have to raise 10 million because 6 million is just to get onto Binance, for example. It wasn't good, and decentralized exchanges have definitely been a good thing for the space. We've seen it grow, and we've seen volumes increase with that as well. Okay, why do people use decentralized exchanges? Well, one, it's because one of the tokens or one of the listings that they may have just come out from the DeFi boom might only be listed there to start off with, and they want to get to market. That's one option. The other is the decentralized nature, so you can remain somewhat anonymous. Now, I don't know what that's going to do as we move forward in the space and get more and more people looking at this, more and more regulation, and more legitimacy from that sense. I don't know what this is going to do. It could end up being one of these things where, you know, you run too far, or you drive your boat too far up the creek, and then all of a sudden the tide goes out and you're stuck up that creek, and you just wish you hadn't have gone up that creek at all. It could come down to something like that, where there'll be a lot of unraveling, a lot of unwinding, a lot of trouble. Who knows? We did see the rug pull, I don't know if it was a rug pull or not, on Sushi, an anonymous coder, whatever you want to call them, just sort of went, oh, I'm going to sell my $14 million worth, and off I go. Now, credit to this individual, gave it back or whatever happened. But that it does have a bit of a shady bit to it. I will say that. It does have a little bit of a shady bit to it. So a couple of features as to why people are attracted to DEX over sex. I just said that. PG. Kids, don't speak to your parents about that word. Not yet. Yield farming. Centralized exchanges, baby. That's the sex. Yield farming, transparency of market structure. You can see self-custody, anonymity. All right. And I figured that anonymity would be the main one. People do like to make sure that they keep their money. Now, I'm not all that much into DeFi exchanges, only because I haven't found one that suits my needs just yet. If I could trade with a DeFi exchange the same way that I trade right now with my other accounts, would I? I don't know. The question's not really been asked properly because there's not really been anything there to really work with. Let's go on to our next one and going to mickey.com.au. Okay, so this is interesting too. So China had this lottery of $1.5 million for a blockchain-backed digital currency. Sweet. Now, another positive for our space is this. Now, you might look at this and go, well, hang on, it might not actually be a positive. And I can understand why one might consider that it might not be a positive, because if central government structures issue currencies, right, they are going to have ultimate power if they know what's in your wallet, where it's going to. They'll know everything about you. It's the ultimate data catch on your spending. Perfect. Perfect if you want absolute control over what's going on. Absolutely no problem about that at all. And so naturally, China seems like a pretty good place to trial something like this. Now that China's getting involved with it, you'll see other countries that will be getting involved as well. Australia at the moment still goes, no. But we're idiots. We really are. We're a silly nation of silly billies at the moment. Coal. So we're going to see this spread into other areas of life. Again, the best thing about this is that we have the position where, we have the microphone, not position, we have the microphone now of governments as well, talking about digital assets, bringing that legitimacy into the mindset of the masses, and I think that is a very positive thing. Now, here we are. There you go. Publicly listed companies, ladies and gentlemen, holding over 600,000 BTC, and we like it. We do. We like it a lot. Now, why do we like that? Because it means hopefully they'll hang on to them. Now, they could dump on us for sure, but I believe that these companies are starting to see the actual underlying value and what Bitcoin can do, not only for society, because they don't give two shits about that. They just want to make money. Ha! Yep, got you there, Fidelity friends. Just joking. But it's important to understand how much is being held. Now, what they're looking at here and what they've been saying is they want to see people getting into digital assets. So let's find this. One survey found that as many as 60% of investors, all right, believe that digital assets have a place in a portfolio. Now, it's up to the jobs of Fidelity and these financial institutions, because in a big way, they are going to have to be a big part of this market. Now, I know you might be going, no, we don't want that. It's ours, blah, 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 blah. But that would be against Bitcoin's worldview, is that everybody can be involved in Bitcoin, right? Now, people or companies like Fidelity coming out with statements like this, I mean, they said it earlier in the week, 1 to 5%. I think they said it somewhere in here as well. But people are surveyed. These are investors. You haven't got little Johnny down at the who's working at McDonald's investing into Fidelity funds. Typically, there's a lot more money in it. There's a lot of funds of funds. I mean, they are enormous. They are an enormous financial behemoth, and they are being asked by the clients to get away for these people to be exposed. Now, if you have a look at this, Stone Ridge reveals holding 114 million. Another one, of course, we talked about Square. We covered that. We talked about, there's another one, New York Digital Investment. There's a lot going on right now. So 18 companies hold a combined 612,000 Bitcoin, which is equivalent to 2.92% of the total supply. That's big. That is big. That is big. That is big. The crypto whale, we're not going to talk about that because anyone that calls themselves whale doesn't get too much from me. Okay, so again, it's just a little snippet of more good news. Fidelity back in the media talking well of Bitcoin, or at least positive news. Banks should be ready with CBDCs if Libra is blocked by BOC executives. Now, I'm not quite sure as to where we got to here with Libra. Last I heard, a number of companies were pulling back, pulling out, and moving on from what they saw as being something quite fearful, quite scary. Now, I know they pulled out a while ago. I'm not sure if the appetite for Libra has changed again. My issue with Libra is really that it is the brainchild of Facebook. And to me, that's scary. They hold a lot of data already. If they have a token or have a coin that we use, they'll own our data, where we go, who we're with, what we like, who our ex was, where we shop, why we shop, what we look at on the internet, and how much we spend. That's, to me, I don't like the sound of that. Now, I might sound old school, but I'm new school, old school. I just don't like the idea of that. I see that as being potentially very disruptive, very bad for society as a whole. But again, you can see what happens. The market starts to move. What comes back? Everybody. No one wants to talk about markets when they're down. Everyone wants to get involved when the boom comes back. This tells me one thing. They're there to capitalize, and that is all. So they've picked, again, another little bit of Libra stuff here. HSBC brass. That's fantastic because, of course, HSBC has one of the world's best reputations for laundering drug money. So it would make sense that they create their own form of being able to do that. I see it's a very good pick there. You can see I'm a little bit of a prick when it comes to this Libra and HSBC. The amount of stuff they've been getting away with for a long time, both Facebook and HSBC, and the little guy that's been getting screwed by them, I really am not a big fan of that institution. And it's one of the biggest banks, if not the biggest bank in the world. Go to any airport and you will know what I mean. So it's, again, we're talking about Libra. I'm not too interested in that side of it. Again, though, it is more information. It's a big company. We're talking top brass. That is somebody who, if that was a former HSBC brass, mate, they don't need to work. That person doesn't need to work. Okay? They're here because they want to be here. And they've probably been offered a huge amount of money and a shotgun to the head by a man who has no teeth. I don't know why he's got no teeth. But guys, I just to do a recap on this. Don't forget to subscribe, like, turn on the notifications, hit the bell, do all those sorts of things. Share it around. We're going to do more of this. I might have less stories. I might have more pointed. This is the first one of these news items that I will be channeling and trying to do more of. To try and give me something other than just going in and doing the trading. I love doing that. Don't get me wrong. That's what I do. But this stuff is fun too. This is fun. This is the first one I've done, and I thoroughly have enjoyed myself. Don't forget, we do have a brand new website. If you haven't checked it out, go check it out. And a brand new free course at tradercobb.com. Guys, take it easy. Have a fantastic weekend. Call your mates. Check they're okay. If you're not okay, make sure that you call somebody. It's been a tough year. I wish you all well, and we shall speak again very soon. Go forth and conquer Bitcoin.